Hey YouTube, what's going on? Today I'm going to be sitting down to chat with Carbon Fiber John. Now I came across Carbon Fiber John because he posted a video within the Sonny Webster Academy of him doing a power clean. Now the thing with his power clean was he was doing it off one leg. John had just been amputated below the knee. Now after the video went viral on my Instagram, he actually got into some trouble at the gym about people questioning the safety of him continuing to do Olympic weightlifting after his amputation. And this spurred the conversation of my thoughts really around what struggle it must be for amputees doing Olympic weightlifting, but also the struggles that amputees have full stop in getting on with life. And John's an extremely inspirational person, and he told an absolutely incredible story about his life, the reason behind his amputation, and what his future plans are for life now. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and you can go follow John at Carbon Fiber John on Instagram. First of all, welcome and thank you so much for your time, John. I just want to start off by, I guess, getting a little bit of an insight into who John Edwards is. Carbon Fiber John, that's what you call yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. So you know what's crazy, man, is that started as a joke. Carbon Fiber John started as a joke, but I had it's called the Ideo Exosim, was the first prosthesis that I used. But I'm actually here at the Naval Academy. So I used to coach kids and mentor them and get them ready for, Marine infantry, SEAL training, EOD. And we all went out one day and a bunch of kids were like, "Oh my God, you're Carbon Fiber John." And I was like, "Yeah, but whatever." But it stuck. So, here we are.
Perfect. So what were you like as a kid? What was growing up for you like?
So I'll tell you what, Sonny, I am not the product of what I was supposed to be. I actually am a foster kid. I was in the foster system. But the difficulty of my situation was I actually know my biological parents, and I actually kept living back and forth from my house because my biological mother would, get her life straight. And then the court would be like, "Oh, okay, she's figuring it out." And then boom, relapse, physical abuse. And then here I am to another home. So when I was a kid, man, I was hanging out with the wrong people, wrong crowd. I have one friend from my childhood that was right there with me, and him and I turn our lives around, man. And we talk every day of how shocked we are. Sometimes I literally messaged him last week and I was like, "Hey man, does, our childhood seem like a lifetime ago? Like it wasn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I think that's what's so crazy about everything that I'm doing, because when I was in the Marine Corps, I had a kid that same situation. He just felt that nobody related to him. And then finally I pulled him aside. I'm like, "Hey man, no rate, just man to man. Let me know." He's like, "Oh, you wouldn't understand. Like I grew up in the projects and I don't have a family." And I was like, wow, ironic, because neither do I. So that's what it was, man. I worked hard, and I had to figure out where I was living. So I think as an adult, so my best friend's Devin Allen, amazing football player. He's an Olympian. And that's what we talk is I don't regret, Sonny. I don't regret anything that I went through. I think that, God has a plan, and I think that I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through all my struggles. But I will tell you, I think the one thing that I hold against is I wonder if I would have been a successful athlete, because I picked up my discipline, man, late in the game. Like weightlifting for me started at 18. I joined the Marine Corps at 17. And then one of my seniors forced me, man. He forced me to the gym. I was pissed. I would go every day, was mad, was sore. And then he'd be curling like 65s and I'd try to go like the 35s. He yelled at me once, man. He was like, "Form before weight," in front of the entire gym. He gave me 10s until I mastered the 10s. That man did not let me move to 15s. It was so embarrassing. But that engraved my coaching, because I do that to my kids, man. They'll try to add plates, on a snatch or on a power clean or on a deadlift. And I yell at them. I'm like, "Hey, go back. You can't do 10 perfect ones. I don't want to talk about moving up." Yeah. So it was pretty rough, man, but here we are.
And at what point did you decide you wanted to go into the Marine Corps? Like at what point growing up did you think, that's what I want to do? How did
Listen, man, a lot of my friends dropped out. My best friend who I was telling you, he actually dropped out of school. So my last 2 years of high school, all of my friends were either in jail, they were just not doing the right stuff, or they had dropped out of school. man, I don't honestly, I wish I could go back and like have a GoPro to follow me, because it was just like night and day. Just one night I was like, I was like, dude, I need to get my stuff together, because this just isn't gonna fly. And I had met a group of recruiters, and the story on that alone was just the transition. But here's the thing, man, nobody believed me. The cop from the town, the local law enforcement, he didn't believe me. I remember my security guard from the school. She was like, yeah, you'll get arrested like the first day in boot camp. She's like, you're not going to make it to Marine Corps boot camp. And I didn't have that mentality. Like, when you tell me I can't do something, that's me now. Back then, when somebody said that, it was never like that motivational to like, that's fuel for fire. And dude, I turned my life around. It was the craziest thing. I actually talked to one teacher who believed in me. He was my law teacher. He's now here. And he was like, you want to join the Marine Corps? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, you are like a year behind school. Like, so my junior and senior year, Sonny, I was working 2 jobs and I had to go 8 class. So I had 7 classes in a day. I had night school, I had weekend school, and I had summer school just to try to graduate high school. I was sitting in front of the class. It's like a movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like the troublemaker finds life. And
Do you think
I tried my hardest, man.
Do you think subconsciously that doubt that people had in you when you were younger, made you want to go on to do it even more?
So I think that played a major role into it. But I will tell you, from that point and on, now that I'm 30, it's been, I refuse to be the product of what my biological family would have created. So I just, everything that I do, man, I try my hardest not to emulate them. I try my hardest to not prove them right. Like, you're supposed to be this statistic of like, you weren't loved, so you're just going to be rebellious. You're going to be against the law. You're going to do drugs. You're going to do all this other stuff. But then you start to really realize I'm not the only one who goes through stuff like this. And it was like, that was the journey in life, where like in the Marine Corps, out in California, I've lived back and forth from Europe. So it's like you meet a lot of individuals that are on the same path. But no, man, I think that honestly, but that's what started it. I think that that's honestly what started the drive, because now it's like, oh, you're telling me I can't do this? All right, here's the video. Here's proof,
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I truly believe in the more and more people that I've been fortunate enough to meet and speak to throughout my life as an athlete, you realize that every successful person in their own way has been through some level of adversity. And I think, it can feel very, very lonely in a sense when you're going through, your own part of adversity. You're like, why me? Why is it me that this has happened to? But I really feel that there's every successful person that I've met, that is one of the makeups that makes people great. Because I feel like unless you've struggled or felt like what it feels like to, be in a hard place, you don't really know what you're made of.
No, I completely agree. And what's funny is I became really close with a family here. They're local business owners. And my friend Lauren, she hung out with me. It was just like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. And she was like so shook. She was just like, John, like what's going on? How are you going to handle this? How are you going to figure this out? And I'm like, my answer's always been like, hey, I got to do what I got to do. I don't have options to just not get it done. And then I deployed with a buddy of mine who also lives out here. And same thing. He was like, dude, I've known you since 2014 and you just don't catch a break. And I was like, welcome to the life of John Edwards. Like, so now it just becomes like that thing where it's like, okay, cool. And I actually got into it with a couple friends because my life would have gone, for a couple of weeks. It was like super smooth. Everything was going my way. And I made a comment where I was like, all right, it's too peaceful. Like what is God going to throw down? What obstacle, what hurdle do I need to jump? And he was like, dude, that's really negative to think. And I was like, no, man, I'm being realistic. Like, this has been you can't tell someone who lives adversity, who's had nothing but left and right stuff thrown at him, and then tell me that I'm being pessimistic. That's not, I'm being a realist, man. That's how it plays out, So, but no, I completely agree with you.
For you, did it take you a while before you're able to kind of speak about, your emotions and understand, I guess, how to overcome those things? Because I feel like for a lot of people, and especially as a man, I think emotions isn't something that we're ever told that we can express, or it shows a sign of weakness. But from already listening to you, I can feel that you're very, comfortable about, discussing the way you feel and what you've been through. Was there a particular point in your life where you thought, okay, I need to be able to understand, how I'm feeling in order to move forward? Because I think that holds people back a lot of the time.
So I actually, so it's funny because I actually eat plant-based because I did a lot of damage to my intestines from drinking. And the subculture in the military is, oh, you're in the military, it's okay to just drink and just drink and just, oh, and here's the thing, man, my tolerance is mental, man. Like I met some Brits out in Cancun who are actually my close friends now. I killed those kids, man. And and I have videos and I'm like, they're like, dude, and the next day I was at the gym 6 a.m, but I think my turning point, my best friend actually committed suicide in 2018, active duty Marine, and it wasn't my first service member suicide, because I've dealt with a lot. That, I mean, there was like 6 or 7 prior to him, but I was fed up, man. I was like, I was angry because when you spend, and mind you, I don't know, you probably have never heard, but this place is called 29 Palms. It's in the middle of the Mojave Desert, middle of nowhere. We're miserable. Like the closest Walmart is 40 minutes. So when you're with someone every day and you work out together, you wake up together, you eat together, you talk about everything and life goals, and then that person disappears, it makes no sense whatsoever. And you think that, because I'm a very open person, man, I tell my friends I love you every day. I express how I'm feeling, because what makes me mad, Sonny, is I can't stand when people put a picture on social media and they're like, he was a great guy. Did they know that? Like, did that person know that before they passed away? Or did you have to wait until they died for you to do that? So that occurred, man, and that hit me hard. And I was living in Germany, and I was actually visiting the States to move back. And when it happened, I was so shook. And the first thing that occurred, Sonny, was a couple senior officers that I worked for called me, and they made me promise them that I would not turn to alcohol on this situation. So think about it. Your best friend just passed away. You're not at home. All your stuff, all your friends are in Germany. The closest people I was hanging out with were in Spain, Iceland, Norway. And then you're here and you get these news, and then you're forced to really, really sit with your thoughts. And that's when I started dissecting stuff, man. I'm graduating from my psychology degree here in October. But then what made it even worse, March 2020, I got notification that my significant other also committed suicide. So now I still mentor my kids at the academy. I have commissioned officers waiting to leave to the next training that are living with me. And my biggest mission has been, listen, man, you are still, just because you're emotional doesn't make you weaker than the person to the left, to your right. If anything, it's going to help you lead better. It's going to help you be true to yourself. It's going to help you show that you have actual emotions, instead of sitting here and thinking like, I wonder, does Sonny ever cry, or is he, and that's what you think about. So that's been my biggest mission, man, has been to voice these opinions and teaching these kids that, like, what are you going to, you can't tell me, the big guy that's squatting, all this amount of weight, or power cleaning all this amount of weight, oh, he's weak because he's crying. No, man, if anything, it's really made it clear to the individuals around me, like, dude, it's okay. Like, voice it, but I always tell them, man, look, you get a couple days, you're down in the dumps, you get a couple days, and then it's time to be gangster again. Like, you're not going to sit around in a cesspool and be like, oh, why me, or X, Y, and Z. So you got to let it out, and then you got to keep trucking on to the next thing.
With yeah, it's so true what you say there. But I think, like, the thing that for me that I've always wondered, because I've never been in that situation where I've had someone close to me commit suicide. Like, and I always wonder, like, for you, obviously being close to your friends, did you have any idea that they were struggling, or do you think they just hid their emotions well? Or
I'll tell you what, Sonny, one of them, my best friend, we actually have matching tattoos, man. It was easy to crack. I got, his mom gave me all his personal belongings. Sonny, I cracked his Snapchat, his Instagram, his Facebook, because I couldn't sleep, man. I needed to figure this out. I was looking for a note on his Mac laptop. Nothing, man. There was nothing that gave me an ounce of all right, this is, which at the end of the day, that doesn't even give you, it doesn't give you closure. Because at least if I knew that someone was struggling with something, then to some extent you're like, okay, maybe I won't miss it next time. You don't have an idea, man. And I think that's, if we go back to it, is as a man, you're told, don't cry, don't speak your emotions. So I think that's engraved on a lot of people. And that has a lot to do with the upbringing of a person. If your father's beating you because you're crying, there's no way you're going to start, speaking out your emotions as an adult.
Yeah. And I think, for me, that just really highlights, I guess, kind of where this conversation has all started, that, when people are struggling or feeling a level of emotion, a lot of the time they do compartmentalize it and store it, but it ultimately does have an effect on the person, to obviously the worst degree for some people. And I think if there's one thing that I guess I want people to be able to take away from this conversation is, this is a clear show that, if you are struggling with something, or you do feel the need, like, to want to let something out or talk about how you're feeling, you must do it, because I think it just really can eat away from the inside out for people.
I think that's what makes the situation that I'm going through even bigger, because like I said, Sonny, I stayed to myself, man. I could easily have been, all up on, I've just never really been a person to be out there. But my thought process is, dude, the next person who goes through this isn't going to be John Edwards. No. The next person isn't going to be as resilient or, understanding. Like, a lot of people have messaged me on Instagram, people that I don't even know, that have had a recent amputation, that are going through an amputation, that have not come to terms with their amputation. You don't know the next disabled person that you're going to address the way you addressed me. And it's going to be worse. And one of the gym owners here is a veteran, and he put it in the best perspective. And let's be adults about this. He said, what if you were an individual who got medically retired for PTSD, and that had occurred to you, and then you just showed up to the gym and did something, that regretful for the rest of your life? Or what if you were going through something very traumatic in your life, and your escape was the gym, and then you come home and you just felt that they just took that away from you, or that they embarrassed you, and now you just committed suicide? Like, this whole situation, it's not about how John feels. You're not going to hurt my feelings, because luckily for me, I'm a warrior, man. But the next person isn't going to be as okay with the way that everything went down. And that's why it's such a powerful thing for me to get this out there and let people know, to understand, like, your words mean things, man. And not everybody's sitting there. And especially with COVID-19, the psychological effects that we're going to have from COVID-19 aren't just this year. They're years to come. And it's not just children, it's adults, it's everyone worldwide. So the fact that all of a sudden you feel like COVID disappeared, and you have to act a certain way towards somebody, that's not okay.
100%. And I think a huge part of, I guess, people's struggle to understand or sympathize, I'm not sure what the right word is, but with someone who even has a disability or is an amputee, is ignorance, because they probably don't have enough understanding. And I think that this relates very similarly to racism as well, for people who don't understand something very well, that they automatically are ignorant to it, and then probably, not always knowingly, but sometimes obviously intentionally, do say the wrong thing, act the wrong way, or treat someone in a way that it shouldn't be any different. And I think that that's equally important. At the end of the day, this is an extremely sensitive topic for a lot of people. I think that's why this sort of thing at the end of the day is really good from an educational standpoint for people to get more of an insight, because I think when people have more of an insight and it's made in such a simple way that people can interpret, they'll definitely change the way that they act and understand or speak on the matter again. And, I think, that's why I want to get into a little bit more about how your amputation came about, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about the story.
So actually, dude, I'm a product of, I would call it malpractice. So what happened is I got injured in 2016. Everything was fine. I went in, they fixed stuff. It was a slow process. And then I was putting in a package to go do something else in the Marine Corps, had a medical examination. So that's the other thing, man, is I used to train so horribly when I was in the military, tough it out. Or you hear a click like, oh, don't worry about it, don't go to medical. Well, when I was running, I felt this specific pain. And I was like, man, I've been doing this for a while. Like, I'm just going to ignore it. Well, when I went to go to the medical package, they did an x-ray and they found a giant hole inside my ankle. So that's what started the process. And the doctor was like, listen, I'll go in there, fix it. You'll be in there in no time. So they were going to use cadaver. I mean, we're in 21st century where now we're using other people's bones, just like you donate any other organ. Went in there, my body rejected it, completely dissolved. And that's what's happened is they've used cadaver, they've used screws and all this, and my body just rejects what is not mine. And that's what happened. And slowly but surely, it just started eating up, and there was just holes and holes and holes and stuff. So when I was in Germany, I went for a run, I collapsed, and I was like, man, this whole leg situation is just not happening. So they sent me back to the States. When I went in for an MRI, the doctor was like, yo, your leg is completely, like your bone is completely gone. There's floating screws and stuff. And you're sitting here like, dude, I just power cleaned like 300 something pounds, So when she went in, Sonny, she took a picture and my leg from my shin down looked like cheese. There was all these holes, giant holes in my leg. So I don't know how I never snapped my leg, because when I got to the Naval Academy, I was power cleaning some nasty numbers and somebody was looking out for me, man, because the wrong landing, my leg should have snapped. So they did that. And I had a surgical halo on, which I had never seen this thing ever. And I was walking around, and here's the thing.
What's a surgical halo?
So it's got rings and it goes around your leg, and the rods go straight through your bone and through your muscle. Wow. It was in my calf, it was in my ankle. It was the most painful thing that I have ever had. And I've worn a lot of different orthotics and prosthesis for my situation. I've had 13 surgeries. Man, if I turned the wrong way, it would rip my calf. It was the most miserable thing, man. And that's what made it relatable. So I don't know if you know the quarterback, Alex Smith. He was a Washington football team quarterback, had a very, very catastrophic injury. And he also wore a surgical halo. And that's what made us relatable, because we're with the same company, Attitude is Free. And when we got connected, I have never related to someone that wore this thing, because that thing was miserable. And then to make matters worse, 4th of July, 2019, all the new guys that had just commissioned, they didn't have anywhere to go. And I have a family that has a place here. And I was like, all right, I'll throw a barbecue for you guys. We had fun. I was not feeling well. And I knew, because you know your body, man. When you've been doing this long enough, you know exactly what your body's reacting to. And everyone's like, oh, we're going out. Like, are you coming, John? Like, we'll put the wheelchair in the truck. And I'm like, I'm going to the ER, guys. Went to the ER. I had a bone and tissue staph infection because this thing was out in the open. It's open wound. You got these rods going through. So then that was another, adversity struggle that I had to deal with, just surgery number 12 alone. And finally they removed it. Well, then COVID happened. And that's when everything got put on pause. God works in mysterious ways, man. I got connected to a family here who knew about everything that I do for these students. They took me out to dinner. They're like, John, tell us your story. I'm like, hey, man, I'm here temporary. Like, I'm either moving to New Zealand or Iceland permanently. End of story. That's what you need to know about John Edward. And they were like, let us connect you to someone. We want to help you so you can walk again. And I wasn't holding my breath, Sonny. There wasn't anything that they haven't done in this last 12 surgeries that made me sit here and say like, oh yeah, they're going to fix my leg. Well, they got me in touch with ESPN
Your
Sports
leg
Center.
hadn't been amputated at this point.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
So, but I didn't have any range of motion. So I think of like a bar stool. It was just there.
Okay.
And I couldn't put pressure on it. So I walked around in crutches. I was in a wheelchair. I had to sit. I was a coach. I was a football coach. And I would sit on the sideline and like every 3 minutes. It was so embarrassing because I didn't have that kind of strength, to stay up. So they got me in touch with ESPN Sports News reporter Kenny Mayne, who has a nonprofit for this specific device called the IDEO Exosim. I looked into it. I didn't believe it, and I was like, okay, yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Stapleton, like, yeah, sure. If you hear anything, let me know. Again, did not hold my breath. Finally, I get an email from Kenny and the creator, which is Ryan Blank out in Gig Harbor, Washington. And they're like, hey, send him his stuff. If if he fits the mold, I'll pay for it, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay. So the ball starts rolling and they start asking me for my medical records. They start asking for videos of how I walk, blah, blah, blah. So I tell my players, I'm like, hey guys, this opportunity just came about. There's a certain, prosthetic for my kind of injury, like blah, blah, blah. Everyone's excited. Like, coach, you're going to walk again. Like, you're going to be running out there with us. And I'm like, hey guys, like, I'm not being pessimistic, but I'm not really going to get excited until, you see the end product. So I get an email, man. And Ryan's like, yeah, man, hey, you fit the mold. Here's, the appointments and we'll let you know when you can come and whatnot. So I had scheduled going to Cancun and I told Mr. and Mrs. Stapleton, I'm like, hey, I'm going to cancel my trip. I need to put this money to something that's actually worth something. And the Stapletons were like, John, you've done way too much. You've been in school since you got out of the Marine Corps. Let us fund your trip to Washington. And mind you, Sonny, I just told you, I've never gotten anything from anyone. I've earned everything that I own. So for someone to tell me they're going to give me a large chunk of money, I kind of felt some type of way. And I was like, oh, Mr. Stapleton, like, you guys have done enough. You guys put me in contact with these individuals. Like, we're fine. And she's like, John, let me do it. Like, please, we really want to help you. And I was like, and it was just such a burden to like take this opportunity, but you just take it, right? So I go, Sonny, I get there, they mold me, they cast me, they do my stuff. I'm there for some time. And look how good if you're good, man, good things happen to you. I had met a couple in Virginia Beach, like a couple years prior, killed them with alcohol, right? That was like my trade, 4th of July, take shots, Well, they saw my post on Instagram and they're like, hey, where are you coming to get that prosthesis? I said, Gig Harbor, Washington. And they're like, dude, we're stationed like 20 minutes away from there. Like, you could stay with us if you want to. I didn't have to pay for a hotel. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was just, everything was aligning so perfect. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh, what happens, And so I go, it's a couple days, you got to start doing some process. You get casted. He still has to create it. So finally they make it. I put it on. Weird, man. I'm limping. I'm like, I look like a newborn child.
So what is it like? Explain what this thing looks like.
So it's a leg that you put your leg in. But it's carbon fiber, but you're not using your actual leg because your foot is on the base of the. You get them in, so you're not like, all you do is it's like a sock. You insert it, and then when you're walking on this prosthesis. And if you look at some of my videos with the IDEO Exosim, when I go to power clean, the rods in the back, they bend. So the energy comes from the knee to the back to the foot. Wow. You're not using your leg whatsoever. So I put it on, we go outside, and he takes me to like this little hill, man. There's like 3 rocks, that you jump like this. And he goes, all right, run. I look at this guy and I'm like, you're you're crazy, man. I haven't ran in a couple of years. And he's like, you're either here to better yourself or you're not going to get the full, function out of this device. Sonny, I was shaking, bro. I had this
Wow.
because you build this development of protecting your limb. Everything that you do is like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? You walk like a baby on, certain steps or something. And I was like, oh, I gotta trust this guy, I guess, right? Dude, I took off and I jumped the rocks and I stood there and Ryan looked at me and he's like, how do you feel? I almost started crying.
I bet.
I was like, give me a second. And he was like, are you all right? I'm like, I have not been able to do any of this since 2016. So you start mastering, man. And here's the thing. This is where Carbon Fiber John was born, because I started sprinting the following day on the treadmill. The PT built like this obstacle course that you have to go through in order to like graduate from this course, and I was far in advance, man. So my mission was, so remember I said, what are the negativities, right? Yeah. Dude, I'm excited. I'm like, all I could think about is coming back to the field. I was going to wear sweatpants. I was going to send the boys to the fence, and I was going to go after them, right? Well, Ryan tells me, he goes, hey, John, you're not going to be able to take it with you. I still have to build the top portion of it. And I was like, but you know what? I got it. That's all that matters. As I'm packing to come back to Maryland, I get the news of the suicide. So I was on cloud 9, right?
Yeah.
And then the closest person that you hold to your heart, just committed suicide. So I'm distraught. And I'm like, so I come back, I had 0 sleep. This is where everything starts going. So I go to Cancun. This is when COVID first started. Yeah. We're in Cancun. Then I had to go to California for the funeral. And then I came back here. When I came back here, everything shut down. None of my students came back. This place was a ghost town. And this place looks like Hogwarts. The university looks like Hogwarts. So I'm in this place and it's like, I'm waiting for like zombies to come out. That's how dead this place was. Wow. Well, luckily, Devin Allen had just moved here to train for the Olympics happening July 2020. Yeah. So everything shut down. We all start going to the track. And I asked Joe Delgado, who's a decathlete, he competed in the Olympic trials. I said, hey, man, we have time. Gyms are locked down. I would like for you to, if you could teach me how to run again. I want to master this prosthesis, because in my head, this was my permanent change. Yeah. I was in my mind, I was like, 5 years, I'm wearing an IDEO exosim. Sonny, I spent all of COVID training, track. I made a garage gym. If I saw people selling stuff on Facebook, I grabbed it. Yeah. So my place was the gym that everybody was working out at. So I started mastering this thing. I started sending videos to the creator of the prosthesis. And he was like, yo, man, like, you're being advanced. Like, yeah, you're doing the lifts right. You're sprinting correctly. You're jumping off the blocks correctly. But the problem, Sonny, I still had a lot of neurological damage. So no matter if I was performing, I was still coming home to a swollen leg, to nerve damage, and it was very taxing. And then I broke an IDEO exosim from squatting 600 pounds. So I went to squat and it snapped. Mind you, carbon fiber is not supposed to snap that easy. I think it's like 1,000 something pounds. So I freaked out. I'm like, dude, I don't have the money to replace this thing. I'm like, they just gave it to me. Like, it's been like 3 months. Like, so I call Ryan. I'm like, hey, I'm like, has one of these things ever broken? And he's like, well, John, things are meant to break, just send it to me and I'll send you a new one. So the second one, he made it thicker because obviously he saw what I was doing. Well, that was creating an off balance in my hip. Okay. So I was having back problems, and then my hamstring, and then my psoas. So I was seeing this chiropractor, Dr. Holtzman, out here. I was seeing him 2-3 times a week, man, because that's what was happening. I was putting so much pressure on this prosthesis that was having a negative effect on the right side of my body. And that's when I started to get stressed. I was like, dude, there's no way I can compete like this. I can't live like this. Like, luckily, I get paid by the government for the rest of my life, right? Imagine if I had a 40+ hour job. How was I supposed to maintain with PT 3 times a week, a chiropractor twice a week, and then, you know, you're pretty much injured. So I went into medical and I was like, hey, I'm just here for my referral. You guys kind of left me in the back burner, but I got it. COVID happened.
Yeah.
What's the next step? And the doctor comes in and she goes, oh, how's it going, John? I'm like, oh, I've been better, you know, blah, blah. She goes, John, we're going to do another ankle replacement and another lower extremity salvation reconstruction. And I said, I'm not doing that.
No, again.
And she was like, why? I said, you don't understand, like, the pain that I went through that, the recovery, only for us to do an MRI before COVID. And you were like, the surgery was a failure.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, maybe this time. I said, no. I said, not maybe this time. I said, what if? I said, so you mean to tell me that an ankle replacement only lasts 10 years? So you want me to be back in here at 40? And then you want me to be back in here at 50? And then you want me to be back in here at 60?
No chance.
This is a lifestyle, man. Like, I'm trying to compete. I'm trying to be an athlete. And you guys are trying to keep me in the hospital. And finally, I asked her, I said, you're going to tell me why you're so against an amputation, because I brought this up to you 2 years ago. I said specifically, you guys are going to wait until I'm 30 for me to figure out how to live as an amputee when you guys can do it when I'm 28. And she goes, Sean, you're just too young for an amputation. And I flipped, Sonny. I was like, oh, okay, so all my friends that lost 1, 2, or 3 limbs in Iraq and Afghanistan before they were 21, I guess they were too young also, huh? And she was like, and she realized when I said that, and she was like, John, is this what you want? I said, yes, man. Give me a prosthetic. I could have competed in the Paralympic trials this year. Like, if you would have done this 2 years ago, I would have already learned how to be an amputee. I could have already learned how to be an adaptive athlete. Instead, I have limitations because this thing doesn't bend. It doesn't, you know, and it's giving me secondary stuff. Sonny, she said, you never voiced it like that. I will talk to the vascular doctor. We'll get this done. I get the appointment with the vascular doctor.
Do you think that having been in the Marine Corps and obviously having been exposed to amputees made it much easier for you to be able to have that thought process as like, I would be better without my leg?
Yes. And it also helped, Sonny, that it was on my terms.
Yeah.
I asked for the amputation. So it would be a lot different than a lot of these kids that I'm speaking to that wake up from a car accident and their legs are missing. Yeah. That's a whole different mental game. And Devin Allen, who's a competing athlete, an Olympian, he couldn't process in his mind how I had just made that decision. And we had to talk about it for a couple times. He was like, John, like, as an athlete. And I said, Devin, I'm not a full body like you, man. This is the best decision for my athletic career. If I'm going to keep trying to compete, I need to be at 100%. I'm not at 100%. I'm at probably like 65 or 70. I said, you need to understand, I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of the lower back problems. Once I get this done, we add a prosthesis, boom, there's my platform, man. So he finally understood, but no, Sonny, 100%. This would not have gone in my favor if I did not grow up seeing my friends. One of my closest friends is missing 3 limbs, man. Yeah. 3 limbs, and he competes in the bike stuff. And I got exposed at such a young age, but this is why my mentality and my attitude is different.
But this is the amazing thing, because, you know, for you having been exposed to other people that have had amputations, it made it 10 times easier for you to be able to make that decision to improve your quality of life. But I think there's probably so many other people out there that were in that catch-22 or 2 years that, again, could have made the decision themselves a lot earlier to improve their quality of life had they been through or experienced, I guess, the stories or the understanding of what it's like for an amputee. Because it obviously, like you said there, had a huge impact on your ability to make that decision.
Yeah.
Amazing, man.
And I get it. That's what the exposure is about. So when the situation at the gym happened, it wasn't about, because I specifically said the first time I was addressed, I said, listen, man, I understand I'm John. I understand that we're cool. I understand you know what I'm training for. I know you're friends with the Olympians. Like, I got it. I said, but I'm just letting you know you need to learn how to deliver this to the next person. I said, the next person isn't going to be as chill as I am. I said, So you just need to expose yourself a little bit more if you're going to be a manager to this gym, so you know how to approach it. You just don't tell someone. And here's the thing, Sonny, I'm around 3 kids have asked me more politely and more blunt about what's happened to my leg versus adults. Adults have been like, I was at the store and I put my crutches in the back and I hobbled up to the front and she goes, yo. And I was like, yes, ma'am. She goes, what happened to your leg? And I was like, what makes you think that that's okay? What makes you think that it is okay to point at someone? And then I was in North Carolina this weekend because I needed to get away. There was a whole crowd of people waiting for the fireworks, and we had to cross right in between everyone. Sonny, I felt, and I'm not an embarrassed person, man. Put the spotlight on me. But I felt every single eye staring at me, my friend, and my 5-year-old nephew. And I'm like, why is that? Like, how is that a common normality for people to just look, point, ask? Because again, the whole statement, not everyone is John Edward. The next person is not that. You don't know if that person has come to terms with their amputation.
Exactly. And that's
everyone's.
That's the crazy thing, man, because at the end of the day, it was your decision to have that amputation. How long did it take you? We'll get to the gym scenario in a minute, because I think that that's really important too. But after having your amputation, what was your like initial mindset? Did anything change like straight afterwards, or were you just motivated to like start hitting the gym again? Was it like a relief, or what was it like for you?
So I'll tell you what, I was a little upset because no one could be in the hospital. They were being super, super strict about COVID restrictions. And I had my best friend's mom, who passed away in 2018. She flew from South Carolina to come take care of me. I had my buddy, Devin Allen. I had my buddy, Caleb. And then I had my videographer, because my plan was to start recording my process. That was my plan. And they didn't let anybody in. They let one person in. So it was very weird to do it by myself. But, I went through, and I went in with such a positive attitude, because I was talking. They asked me, they transferred me to the bed they were going to do surgery on. And they're like, hey, what's your favorite artist? Or like, what music do you listen to? I'm like, yo, put some Kygo on. They put Kygo on, and I'm vibing, man. I'm on the bed, like, fixing everything, blah, blah. So I went in, I woke up. My biggest fear, and I said this to everyone, my biggest fear wasn't getting the amputation. My biggest fear was waking up and not remembering that I was getting an amputation, and then being like, where's my leg? And then freaking out and going straight Hulk mode in the hospital. Luckily, woke up. I asked for my cell phone. I was like, hey, can I have my phone? And I'm texting away. I shouldn't have been texting. Like, you're not supposed to do anything for the first like 2 hours. I'm texting and I'm letting everybody know, like, hey, I'm alive, blah, blah. So when I don't think I really came to terms with it until probably the second night. The second night I started to feel pain. And I was like, wow, like I really got this done. But here's how I'll describe to you my attitude. The nurses they came in and they were like, I really wish you could talk to other patients. And I'm like, why? And they're like, you have been so amazing this whole process. Like, they asked you to crutch around the hospital. You crutched around the hospital. I'm like, and my mentality, Sonny, is not like I'm not something special. It's just I've lived in crutches for 5 years. I'm really good at it. Like, I pass people as they're walking, and everyone's like, slow down. I'm like, I'm not going fast. I'm just really good at crutching, And then it was the funniest thing, because I would hear other amputees yelling, man, throwing stuff. Like, and I'm like, oh, and I'd be hanging out, man, and I'm like, they're like, are you all right? I'm like, can I have another ginger ale? And I was like, so my attitude was completely different. But I will tell you, when my mind changed was when I came home. I had people, man. I had my friend's mom, I had Devin, I had all these kids that were here for the summer, and then everybody left. And then I was by myself. And then I was like, and then the pain was excruciating. I didn't want to take narcotics. I don't like, and I told you about my tolerance. I've had to take, like, last surgery in 2019, I was taking 11 pills of Percocet to numb the pain. Wow. Because of my tolerance. Like, And the fact that the anesthesiologist always comes to talk to me in any surgery, this last one, she was like, John, I have to recommend to your doctor, like, you have a high tolerance for narcotics. I said, oh, how'd you know? Did you read my chart? She was like, no, you were having a full-blown conversation when we were putting you down and you wouldn't go to sleep. And I was like, oh, okay. So I have this fear, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to take all these narcotics and then not wake up. And it's just the after effect. It's just like it messes up your mental. And then I researched one of the medication I was taking for the nerves, gabapentin. Sonny, the side effects for mental health was about this long.
Wow.
And then I started to put two and two together. I said, I'm not a negative person. I don't think this way. Now I know why I was in my head. I was like, I did not regret doing this at any point in my life until that one day that I was in my head, in my house. And I'm like, wow, did I really make the right decision? Like, this is miserable, you know?
You
Stop taking the medication. I switched over to CBD.
So it was the side effects of the prescription drugs was actually having bigger effect on your mental state than anything else. That's crazy, you know, because I think like people aren't made aware that, you know, sometimes the medication that they take and prescription drugs and the addictions that people have to them, like the effect that that has on your mental state. And there's probably just not enough research into it that for people to be given enough, you know, I bet you weren't told, oh, by the way, this may make you feel, they don't say shit.
Nope. They didn't tell me about, I was super dehydrated. I was cotton mouth. It was the worst thing, man. It was this medication was so horrible. And then I would crutch to my truck and I was out of breath. So I switched over to CBD. So Devin's sponsored by Mendy. He had like this big bag while he was at the Olympic trials. I snatched them up, man. I was eating all these gummies, CBD gummies, worked like a charm. And I have not looked back. I'm taking the drops now, and the doctor asked me, like, oh, are you still taking the medication? I said, no. And he was like, what? I said, I don't take anything that you gave me. And they were like, really? Then how are you dealing with the pain? I'm like, oh, I've been taking CBD. Because I just refuse, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I think CBD is a lot more popular in America than it probably is in anywhere else in the world. But that's amazing that for you, that was the perfect, I guess, medication.
100%.
That's awesome.
And I'm typing up my like testimony to send to the two companies that I used. I think that is important. I think that 100%. If a newly amputated individual is telling you that my pain was controlled by X amount of milligrams of CBD, that should help whoever. Because you should not be pumping up all these Percocets and, you know, opioids. That has a worse effect. Yeah. You know, that can affect your mind also, man. So I think that it's a huge breakthrough.
So how close are we now to today? How long ago was this?
45 days ago.
So it's still so fresh. So you obviously had the intention to, you know, I guess, blog this story or tell your story from amputation to where you're going to go, which sounds like you've got big goals in mind. Like, what are the goals? Where do you see yourself like heading? What was the idea behind telling the story?
So the idea of telling the story was there's a current, I don't know how old he is, but there's currently a kid who's in the hospital. I guess his bone was shaped incorrectly when they did his amputation and it was ripping his muscle, which caused an infection. He went in for the infection and then he woke up as an above the knee amputation. And I think that's more traumatic than the initial amputation, because when they tell you like you're a below the knee amputation, I want to say there's still hope. Like as far as like being functional by having a knee joint for lifting.
Can you explain the difference? Because I've had friends as well that have had above and below the knee, but if you can explain how that affects your life, the difference of the two, I think that'd be.
So above the knee means your knee joint goes away, and it doesn't really describe. So I have a friend who's above the knee, but has probably 2 inches of hip left. That's a lot harder to hold and grasp in a prosthetic. And below the knee, because I still have a knee joint, I still have the ability to squat in not like a full natural motion, but I still have that joint to help me come up, the range of motion. So I think it's more, I would say I would have been more traumatic if I would have been told I was above the knee amputation from my athletic career.
Yeah.
And that's what's so different. Everyone's different, man. I've seen some people who are just missing a foot, and I didn't know that was a thing. I thought that they specifically chopped, right at the calf or something like that. But no, so that's what started the mission, because this kid woke up as an above the knee amputation and started seeing my videos, and this kid's going through it, man. This is a kid. This is an adult. This isn't a seasoned guy. This is a kid who wants to play football, who wants to lift weights, thought he was fine with his below the knee amputation, and now you're in the hospital because of an infection. And then to make matters worse, his infection traveled to his other leg. So now they're telling him he might be losing both legs. And the fact that this kid messaged me and was like, John, like, you are my inspiration. Or I had someone who just shattered their knee twice. She messaged me, Sonny, she said, I was looking on YouTube for something to motivate me, and someone sent me your Instagram. And she was like, thank you so much. To me, I'm just living my life, man. I'm just being carbon fiber John. I want to lift this weight. You tell me I can't power clean this, I will power clean this. You're telling me I can't run this far, or you're telling me I can't do that. Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm just living carbon fiber John's life. But look at the outcome has become bigger than anything. It's been affecting so many newly amputees. And then so many amputees have been following me, where it's like, this dude is a strong man. This dude is, this. And now I'm like, oh, okay, it's on. Like, you guys could do this. Like, now it's like day 45, and everyone's still shook, Sonny. Let's be a little realistic. 45 days ago, I got my leg chopped off. And now we're talking about this dude's been in the gym, power cleaning, snatching and trying to figure out life, like how to keep going. And you don't really realize how strong you are until you're doing it on one leg and you're using all the core in your might, So no, that's why I believe it needs to get out there. The education on disabled individuals, the motivation for disabled, and it's not just disabled people. I had, one of my students, he got drafted for the NFL. Malcolm Perry told me yesterday, he goes, dude, you keep me off my ass. You're always on your shit. He goes, when I see your posts, like, I'm like, oh, well, I guess I got to force myself to the gym. This dude out here crutching to the next station. Like, and that's what gave me the fuel to, like, let's get this out there. Let's let the people know. Let's let them know that life isn't over. And I read one of the best quotes on an amputee's Instagram. It said, I lost my leg, not my life. That's it.
That's awesome, bro. So what was your first gym session back like? Had you been Olympic weightlifting before? Because obviously I was drawn to the video when I was going through the academy one day through the Facebook group, and I saw the video. I was like, fuck, that's amazing. Like, because I've worked with a few amputees before, and it's great to see that so many congregate into the academy and share their story. But were you Olympic weightlifting beforehand, or?
Yeah. So I fell in love with Olympic weightlifting probably in 2017. Yeah. And I've done it all, man. I've tried CrossFit. Some of my best friends are Icelandic CrossFitters. I've done the bodybuilding thing. Listen, not for me. Not gonna judge you, but I don't want to eat like that. I did powerlifting, and I was 265. I was just this big ball of muscle who walked to his truck and was, out of breath. So I've done it all, man. And it was functional fitness. It was just a mixture of stuff. I trained so different, so I was doing it, and then joined the academy, started mastering the mobility manual after the IDEO Exosim, because I was like, I need to get more mobile to try to figure out how I'm going to Olympic lift with this prosthesis. Okay. So I was doing the mobility manual, and then that's where it all started. And I started posting videos on the academy with the IDEO, and people were like, "Hey man, what is that thing? Like, it looks weird. Like what is that? And then that's where, that's where I was like, there's no way I can't power clean if I've been doing it. Because like I just told you, I wasn't using my leg in the prosthesis. Yeah. So the fact that I can, that's what went through my mind.
Already had the thought of how this is going to go down. So was that your first session back? What was the first session?
No, so I was out of the hospital I was out of surgery for 5 days. I had a follow-up appointment on the 6th. I went in, they looked at me and they were like, oh, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. Just keep doing this and this and this. Do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, actually. They said, go ahead. I said, can I work out? And they were like, they looked at each other. I wish I could have had my GoPro because they were both like, and then they were like, yeah, just don't do anything that's going to hinder your stump. Sold. I left Baltimore. Which is an hour away from where I live. I had the appointment at 3. I got to the gym at 4:30 and 16:30 in the evening, and everybody saw me. Right? For me, the first gym session wasn't about how much can I lift. The first gym session was like, this is for my mental sanity. I was in there curling. I was in there, doing the bar. I was in there messing with PVC pipes to see what I can do and, how I was going to fix this. So it was just the initial process of like, how is this going to work? Am I going to crutch in the gym? Am I going to use a wheelchair? Am I going to use a knee scooter? So it was all the blueprint to the follow-on sessions.
Yeah.
And that's when the sessions started happening. I was adding 10 pounds, then I was adding 15. And then finally I was like, I got this. Let's add crazy. And when I did the power clean video, I didn't know the old man was walking to see if I was missing a leg. And when I watched it, I looked back and the old man was still shocked. He was like, oh my God, like what the fuck? So I was like, I have to post this on the Academy. I was like, I have to, just post it. And I didn't expect for it to get so much feedback. And it was like, you posted it. It was like so many other people posted it. And then all of a sudden I was in North Carolina and Men's Health UK posted it. And I was like, all right. So, but the thing about it though, is I even told the kids I was working out with, I was like, dude, I could add more weight,
100%,
but I'm not going to do that just right now.
That's incredible, bro. So I guess like listening to your story, like since the amputation, and it's so soon, but obviously in your mind, this has been like a 3 or 4 year process since 2016. You've gone about your business just like you would have done normally, but you're just looking to inspire one person at a time. And I think, your mental attitude is a testament to who you are. And I think that's incredible, because a lot of people that have been through what you've been through would not be able to sit here and talk so, I guess, honestly about everything that's happened to you, but also have such a clear mission about what you're going on to do, which is going to be great things. And I mean, I'm just so pleased that we had this time to speak. And I just want to find out, what's next on the cards for Carbon Fiber John? What are your dreams and hopes now, man? Because the world is your oyster.
The world is my oyster. So you know what, Sonny? I didn't get to play sports as a kid. So I'm going to do them as a 30-year-old. I get casted today for my first prosthetic, which is super exciting for me because I'm tired of crutching. I'm a heavy individual and it's taking a toll on my wrists. So right now, my next few months is going to focus on mastering these different types of prosthesis. But I'm going to tell you right now, man, 2024 Paralympics, they better watch out. Because they have
Carbon Fiber John coming.
That's the big goal, is the Paralympics 2024 in track. Unfortunately, Paralympics doesn't have Olympic lifting, but Dave Castro just made the adaptive CrossFit games, so I might fuck around and go compete in the CrossFit games. I'm reaching for the stars, man. I graduate from the university in October, and then I have one more bachelor's. I have nothing but time to train, master my prosthesis, my injury, and I'm going to live my childhood dreams of would I have been a good athlete if I was younger. I'm going to do that now. And I don't think, people probably look at me and they're like, oh, he's 30, he's old, but I've been smoke checking these kids, since I came here. I was smoke checking, my Marines when I was a staff sergeant in 29 Palms. So I've always been the older individual that has the endurance, that has, the ability. And there's a lot of people that want to work with me. My prosthesis company is super excited to work, with me. I guess they consider that I'm a level 4 amputee from jump. Like they saw me, they were talked about me, and they're like, "You're a level 4. Boom, we're gonna get you this, this, and this." Yeah. So everyone's excited, man. I got a coach out here. He's a former Navy SEAL, Sue Smith. He's gonna help me in the pool. Devin Allen, Joe Delgado, we're still gonna train. Devin has the Olympics coming up, but obviously he's training for the next Olympics. Joe Delgado plays 5th as the, in the decathlon. Same thing. He's training for 2024. So it's your circle, man. When you guys are on the same mission, it's a lot easier to stay disciplined and say no to like going out and stuff. And I keep telling everyone, I get messages, man. They're like, "Oh my God, you're power cleaning one-legged, blah, blah, blah. Like you're such an inspiration." And I'm like, listen, I've never been so hungry for something. And I plan on mastering. Yeah, I plan on mastering this injury. So.
Well, I think, bro, your actions are gonna speak louder than your words for sure. You're clearly so dedicated to this mission. I mean, just some closing things, I guess, coming back to the gym scenario and people's understanding of, amputees and their journey back to normality and normal life. Is there like something, I guess, that you would give those people advice, having been on both sides of the fence now, to help and to have a better understanding of the journey for you?
Yeah, I think that we make this joke as amputees as they're watching, and they're just like, no, they're not, they're watching. So I just think that if you're really interested in knowing what happened to someone, I don't think if you don't know them and you walk up to them and you're like, "Yo, what happened to your arm? Hey, what happened to your leg?" I don't think that that's appropriate. I'm an open book. You ask me, I'm going to tell you a shark ate my leg, or I'm going to tell you that I snatched so hard that my leg fell off, But like I said, the end state of this conversation is not everybody's John. I made a career of having such a powerful attitude. So it's an amputee already thinks that people are staring at them. You're only solidifying someone's insecurities by staring and pointing. So I think that it's better to get educated. All we want to do, man, is be treated normal. We're not any different. And I had a girl at the bar tell me, you're going to get a kick of this, Sonny. I had a girl at the bar tell me, she's like, "Wow, I didn't know an amputee could be so hot."
Fuck's sake.
And I was like, I didn't fucking lose my face. Like what? Like, and it had to press. So it's like the things that people say, because it's me, I'm like, who the fuck? Who are your parents? Like, who taught you that this is like, what processed through your head? And that's what people need to understand. It's stop making it weird, man. Everyone's just trying to get a piece of their pie in this world. Let them live, just live. You know what I'm saying? And stop making it awkward for someone, man. The fact that you take someone so confident and so motivated and so powerful, and you make me feel like, stop staring at me, man. I get it. I'm a large human. I get it. I look like Maui. They made a movie about me. But I think that that's my key takeaway is stop treating people different. They're not different. No one's different. You ever speak to a child with autism? When you talk to them like they're human, dude, you see the spark in a child. That's what everybody wants. They just want to be treated normal. And that's it.
It's an incredible story, man. And thanks again so much for your time. I've enjoyed listening to you and everything that you've had to say. And, I've got like goosebumps of excitement for I can see you 4 years from now. I can see everything that you're going to go on to achieve, man. And I just think it's incredible. And, can't wait to share this with everyone to feel just as inspired as I feel right now. And bro, I wish you all the best. You know, I'm always going to be here for you, whatever you need. And I just look forward to continuing to see all the great things that you achieve, brother.
I appreciate it, Sonny.
Thank you so much for your time, big man.
All right, boss.
And where can everyone find you on Instagram?
Carbon Fiber John, baby.
Watch this guy's moves.